people can't, the theist and the atheist can have a kind of scripted dance, but it's hard for them to have like a real conversation. And I feel like we are, and so I'm grateful for that. And I was just thinking, there's like, do you know who Sam Harris is?
Yeah, I do know Sam.
And I think he seems smart, and I think he clearly is smart. But there's something, I watched I don't know him really, but I saw a video of him once taking up the atheist cause. And it's not up to me to like help the atheists sell their program because I disagree with it. But I remember thinking, man, if I was an atheist, I'd be very upset that Sam Harris was carrying my atheist water because I felt like he was a very bad spokesman for his cause.
Yes, and if I haven't said it before, I don't call myself an atheist in large measure because I think the spokespeople for atheism have done such a terrible disservice to the idea of science, largely by demonizing people's religious faith rather than taking it as the important set of questions that it obviously is.
Yes.
So,
nicely put.
Sam was a friend of mine. He became very disturbed during COVID about my stance as a COVID dissident and refused to talk to me about it. Frankly, I invited him multiple times and he refused to have the conversation. But he, I think, must have earnestly believed that my position was putting people in danger, and he viewed it as a moral failing. He had several podcasts on the subject. He accused me of being out of my depth, even though I'm an evolutionary biologist and evolution is highly relevant to all of the topics included in COVID.
Is he a biologist?
Is he a biologist? In a technical sense, yes. He is a neurobiologist who, for his dissertation work, which I think is all of his work, studied effectively the same question that he had been an author about the dangers of extreme Islamism. And he effectively did a dissertation on the supposed neurobiological facts of people in this mindset. So
Islam.
Yeah. Now, I don't mean to dismiss that. I can say I have doubts about the methodology that he used. He depended on something called fMRI, functional MRI scanning, which in theory allows you to see the activity of different regions of the brain when asked to think certain thoughts or do certain tasks. But there's a lot of difficulty in calibrating fMRI because you need to know what the baseline activity of the brain is in order to subtract out all of the activity that isn't relevant. So in any case, we can put that aside and just say, I'm not certain that what his empirical work involved was robust, but even let's say it is, he is not, broadly speaking, trained as a biologist in any way that I can see. And so he, to his credit, said that he was out of his depth talking about issues of biology related to vaccines, epidemiology, all of the relevant pieces of biological science. But then he argued that I was also out of my depth, which, I'm not a specialist in terms of vaccines, immunology, epidemiology, but evolution is relevant to all of those things. And I'm perfectly capable of teaching myself the parts that I didn't know when COVID began. In any way, he portrayed me as incapable. And when I had expert guests, people like Pierre Corey and Robert Malone on my channel to talk about these things, unarguable experts, people with fantastic credentials, he literally dismissed them as possibly schizophrenic, that would be an explanation for their dissident status.
So low.
It was pretty rotten, and
rather than grappling with what they said.
Right. It would have been tremendously productive for us to have the argument. People could then have evaluated for themselves instead of having him lob grenades from afar and play to his audience. But in any case, I think what has happened to Sam is tragic, and it's a cautionary tale of some kind. I think he effectively has been convinced by something of the correctness of his position. Frankly, his adherence to it is obviously religious in some sense, which is ironic for
and his anger seems to be not at religion necessarily, but at Islam. He's mad about Islam. Everybody knows a good night's sleep is super important. It's actually one of the most important things you can do for your health and your sanity. And that's why we are excited to tell you about something that really helps. Beam's Dream Powder. It's proudly an American product. It's run by Americans, people who share the values that you have: hard work, integrity, delivering results. It's science-backed. It's healthy. It's a blend packed with ingredients clinically shown to improve sleep without poisoning you. So you wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. A good sleep really does make a big difference. Dream is made with a blend of all natural ingredients, including melatonin. It's designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling not with a drug-type hangover, but feeling great and pure and refreshed. Plus, it tastes good. It's already improved over 17.5 million. It's hard to read that because really 17.5 million nights of sleep. People across the country wake up feeling ready for their day. Beam is giving our listeners, you, the best discount up to 47% off in honor of our 47th president, Donald Trump. So try Dream Powder, get up to 47% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker at checkout. Shopbeam.com/Tucker, the code Tucker for up to 47% off in honor of President Trump. An American company, a great product.
He's mad about Islam and he's unnuanced about it. Now, I do think he is correct in one regard about radical Islam and the danger of it, but I think it has blinded him to a larger story in which Islam is an ancient tradition that has in many places attempted to modernize. Some of those attempts have been more successful than others, but I don't think, the way he portrays it, it's simply a defect written into the Quran that the world needs to wake up to, rather than Islam is a population or a set of populations that, like the rest of us, are in an evolutionary process, and there's a lot of nuance to be had about what the way to address radical Islam is and how to encourage any such tradition to join what I would call the cosmopolitan West.
Sounds like he's making a political point.
I don't know what kind of a point it is.
Well, it's all very interesting that a lot of these issues, which would seem to have nothing to do with COVID, do come back to COVID and to the Middle East, by the way.
Yes, and to your earlier point about the dysfunction of our discussion, which I argued is the result of more or less a systematic attack on nuance on any of these charged topics, where effectively there's a discussion to be had, and often two extreme fringes agree to drive out the nuanced discussion and to force you to pick a team.
I feel like I'm watching that right now.
On which topic?
On the Middle East. As someone who, we all flatter ourselves. I probably flatter myself more than most, but if you were to x-ray my heart, you would find someone who sincerely believes he's got moderate, humane positions on these topics. Not really against anybody. Actually, I know both sides personally, broadly speaking, personally. And I kind of see their point on both sides. And I just want less violence. I guess that's how I understand my issue. My position on these issues. And I definitely don't want the United States to be dragged into any of this craziness. I can't get that message out. It's like,
yeah, it's not allowed.
No, I mean, maybe people think that's an extreme position. That is my sincere, as God watches, that's my position. So I just try to avoid it if I can. Unfortunately, they're just pushing. The Republicans in the Senate particularly are pushing us toward war with Iran. So I feel like I can't not talk about it. But you tell me your views. I mean, are you following this stuff?
Yes, I am following it. And I'm, of course, like everybody else, I have lots of trepidations about even wading into the discussion because I know what happens as soon as you do, which is there's a very low quality thought that people who have already picked a camp have. And the thought is, I'm going to listen to what this person says. And if it matches what I believe, then I'm going to embrace it. And if it doesn't match what I believe, I'm going to assume it's on the other side. And so the reason that you can't have the conversation in the middle is that both sides see you as the enemy, which is, the worst of all possible worlds from the point of view of just living your life. However, I do think that this topic is actually a pretty good test case of why it is important, in spite of the difficulty of thinking evolutionarily, to engage the world with that toolkit at least available. Because as an evolutionary biologist who has been fascinated by, often horrified by, the story of human history, I think there's something playing out in the Middle East that is biological, and that until we grapple with it, we're in danger of being, for example, dragged into war with Iran, which will be a terrible catastrophe for all of humanity.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.